Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Allegiant Health, Bass and Associates, and Nebraskans for Public Television. Consider This with Carol Schrader, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bale Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome once again to UNO. It's been 2 academic years since we first came to you with this show, and it's been 2 academic years for my guest here at UNO. I'd like you to join me in welcoming Nancy Belk, Chancellor of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And this is now moving into the first year where you got to have a hand in the budget.
Absolutely.
You had to live with a budget that someone else put their mark on. But it's been an interesting 2 years.
So many significant things have happened on campus, and I remember as your first guest on Consider This, we were talking about a lot that was coming to play, and it has happened.
In fact, I think one of the things that, as we sat out in the hot sun and did the first show, we looked over our shoulders symbolically, and you said, we're going to have residence halls. And I think there are marvelous things to talk about, and we will talk about them today, but the thing that for years and years and years people were sure would never come to fruition, and they've got the road closed right down the street because they're doing some work to help put the finishing touches on University Village.
And we are going to have 564 beds for students to live in. We want to be moving in by the end of August.
Now, one of the things when you came here was your experience in setting up residence halls or overseeing the construction, and these don't even look like typical dormitories. In fact, you always refrained from using that word.
Students don't want to live in the old style dorm anymore. That's where you shared rooms and you had to go down the hall to the bathroom. Now they're used to rooms of their own at home with adjoining baths. These units will have 4 single bed rooms with 2 baths in them. So there will be 2 single bedrooms sharing a bath, and they'll have a common living dining area. So it's come a long way from those dorm rooms that we used to live in.
In fact, if you're interested at all, you can probably, as I did, find the floor plan on a website. So you can see how it was amazing, and then you see the transformation. And the reason I bring that up first, and we'll talk about IST&E and all the exciting academic things, is that the word I'm getting from when I come out here on campus, and it's at least once a week, is that is the thing that is sort of changing the feel. I mean, people are really anticipating having, even though they may not live there, that feel of a live-in campus.
I'll tell you, Carol, having been on my 2 prior campuses where we got the first residence halls, it changes the total ambience, the culture, the ethos, whatever word you want to use. And those 560 plus students will affect all of our commuting students for the better, our faculty and staff. You will have more of a sense of a learning community. Students will have more study groups on campus, and it just transforms the culture. And that's what I'm looking forward to. We like to focus on academics, on retaining our students, on providing an excellent education. And residence halls are all going to be a part of that co-curricular blending of what goes on in the classroom as well as outside.
For years and years and years, even when this was the University of Omaha, this was the Omaha campus where kids went to school because, maybe they couldn't afford to live down in Lincoln. And, you know, it was Dodge Street.
Now remember, we aren't going to talk about
no,
those
but what I want,
anymore.
the reason I bring that up is because of the transformation, and because in talking to, for instance, the athletic department, because a portion of those dorm rooms will go for athletes, some to foreign students and some to the students in general. They are being able to recruit from small towns where they didn't want their kids to live. You know, they didn't know. It was the unknown. I mean, Omaha was like a major metropolitan city. So we are also taking on a regional campus as opposed to what we were back then.
Well, I like to focus on our uniqueness as a metropolitan campus, and a metropolitan university served not only this region but beyond, and the residence hall does expand our service area. And you're absolutely right, the targeted groups to recruit. Our athletes can come from a broader base and have the advantage of living right on campus where they'll practice and work and study. Our international students have had to live in apartments off campus, and they'll be more integrated
And
in
a
the
culture
community.
they weren't maybe familiar with at
Right.
first, and this will smooth the transition.
And then the programs for which we have statewide responsibility. Again, we do serve the whole state, and programs like information science and technology, and that's our newest offering that's certainly beyond this area. But we've long had statewide responsibility for public administration, criminal justice, social work, gerontology, and now those students will be able to come in and live right on campus.
And have the kind of experience that emotionally they've wanted to have
Right.
for a long time. You mentioned the information science and technology, which is probably the newest star. It is the newest star. We've had computer kinds of courses for years and years and years, but it's now elevated to new heights. And the building, what, $39 million, something like that?
Yeah, 37
give or
and a half
take.
million,
I
right.
mean, when you get that high, what's another million?
Yeah. And again, a $14 million private match. If we didn't have the community to help make this partnership work, and certainly Walter Scott has been a major impetus behind making it work, and a lot of help in the community on the Board of Policy Advisors, but it's that $47 million total pledged amount to the Peter Kiewit Institute, which of course includes our College of Information Science and Technology, but brings in our sister institution, Lincoln, with the College of Engineering and Technology, to really have a unique offering.
What does that mean, sort of jumping the pond being Pacific Street? Again, that's another landmark kind of move for the university, not just from the academic point, but from the psychological.
Right. Dodge Street campus is about as full as it can get. Our residence halls rounded out our physical plant here, and by now having the additional 72 plus acres at Exarban, we not only have this outstanding facility, the Peter Kiewit Institute, but we have another set of residence halls that are going to be opening August a year from now that the Suzanne and Walter Scott Foundation are making possible, and that'll be another 160 beds that will attract, again, students from a wider base for the information science, technology, and engineering fields. And we're also going to have 3 visiting apartments for scholars and individuals with expertise to come in and bring a real-world dimension to the Peter Kiewit activities.
The working community, the business community of Omaha is just enthralled with the Peter Kiewit Center and the information science and technology because of the extreme shortage of workers. But the talk among people in town, although their excitement is certainly felt, is that these aren't kids, and people my age say kids, and they're not all kids anyway. These are the people we're going to lose. And there's a great fear that we're going to educate these wonderful people, and then they're going to be the cream of the crop because the nation is looking at this model.
And they are indeed looking at the model. I want to mention that our National Association of American Colleges and Universities cited the new College of Information Science and Technology curriculum as a best practice model nationally. It's a unique blending. So we are at the attention of a national movement. However, I think we're going to be able to keep our best and brightest because part of the benefit of attracting students to the Institute is that they have opportunities for internships, for cooperative working relationships with our business and industry. And there's a lot of evidence that once you get students in the workforce where they have a good experience, and they already are with our businesses and industries in the area, they will stay. And the numbers have far exceeded expectations. We have already over 1,000 students in information science and technology, and that was our target population. And I mean, these are the best and the brightest. Students with a perfect 36 ACT, and that will just be a good blending with the entire campus because our information science, technology, and engineering students will be taking our general education classes, and our students in the other professional areas in arts and sciences need to be electronically literate. And I think it's just going to raise the level of all of our graduates who can serve businesses in the area.
Hopefully to bring the floor up a little bit, and of course the ceiling is, there's
Unlimited.
no ceiling, right,
That's right.
unlimited. What one of the things that as you bask in the glory of this building conglomerate over at Exarban and all it means, there's been concern about the other departments, specifically teachers and retaining them. One of the goals of the new budget was to make teacher salaries more competitive. Where did we shake out on that, and what do you feel you will be able to do in the next 2 years with the new budget?
Well, I do want to say that the University of Nebraska is very appreciative of everyone from the governor to all of the legislators who approved it, to the Appropriations Committee who recommended a 4.57 increase for the University of Nebraska, and that is higher than the 3.2% increase that Governor Johan signed. And so we are, I think, fortunate that the legislators, the Appropriations Committee, and the governor understand the importance of funding higher education. And our top priority, which was funded, was salaries. And the goal was to get our salaries up to the midpoint of our peer institutions, because if you're not at least at the midpoint, you cannot recruit the kind of faculty we need nationally. And so we are just really delighted to be able to have such a commitment shown by the state in salary dollars, because you need base appropriations for salary dollars, whereas then these wonderful private gifts allow the enrichments and the developments of programs like the IS&T. We would also want to say, though, our other professional colleges do enjoy good private support and produce excellent majors in business and teacher education. We've already talked about our statewide and national reputation in community affairs, public service. So I think what all of us are trying to do is to help integrate the Peter Keywood Institute and the information science and technology and engineering areas with our other programs, so all is enhanced.
Now, you mentioned the gifts that come to the university, which there is not an educational institution, or for that matter, any not-for-profit or non-profit organization right now that is just could not make it without the generosity that in part has come from a good economy and just the generosity of people who've been fortunate to amass an income. But as I look, every time the NU Foundation bulletin comes out to me, I see, and nothing to take away from them, but I see UNL, UN Med Center, a Med Center, UNL, and then maybe one or two to UNO. Now, I imagine one of your goals, not to put words in your mouth, is to kind of up those odds a little bit.
Well, and that's why I mentioned our other program areas. As delighted as we are about the gifts that have come in, singularly dedicated to building an institute that serves a real shortage in this area and beyond, we also need gifts to help enrich our arts and sciences. That's the very core education that affects all of our majors. And we do want to round out in our Nebraska campaign, which has been successful, but it has been more focused in one area, and we will be looking across more areas.
Because I know that the morale of an institution, though, has been buoyed by IST&E, the residence halls and everything, constantly has to be, you know, kept up, because I remember arts and sciences always did seem to be the one that just struggled through to keep educating these kids with the liberal education that we want them all to have.
And arts and sciences is getting a wonderful renovation, about a $6 million renovation, which is the third and final phase of making that building really up to standard in terms of the smart classrooms, the electronics, the good kind of teaching, learning, laboratory facilities you need, because you've got to have that strong undergirding. And certainly our research across the arts and sciences, as well as the professional colleges, is what we're about. And so Arts and Science Hall's getting a renovation, Allwine Hall's getting a renovation. So the arts and sciences are having some fine things happen to them as well.
And for the record, Arts and Sciences Hall is what many people through the years knew as the building with the cupola,
right?
The old administration building, because there are many people who have not been out here since the Chancellor's office moved from that building to what was the old library,
right,
which is right on Dodge Street.
I talk about building on the strengths of Arts and Science Hall and the cupola that is a symbol of our past. And you know, we're celebrating our 90th anniversary this academic year, 1908 to 98-99. And I look to our strength, our beautiful Hensington Campanile, of a new symbol of what the university's been able to do with a lot of private giving. And in 10 years on that centennial, we will really be a metropolitan university of distinction with a far-reaching effect on our programs.
And I guess when you look to 10 years from now, that is the goal, that UNO will be used by academics as an example in various areas.
And again, I go back to a metropolitan university. We have that metropolitan advantage. And what that means is you capitalize on your location. You're kind of a living, learning laboratory for all the challenges that cities have. But then we take what we learn far beyond. We have an international presence. Bethsaida, we opened the Lost City of Bethsaida March a year ago. We've got 22 sister institutions internationally. And so what we do here does have a presence far and beyond. And what I focused on my 2 academic years is really leading a strategic planning effort that helps us focus in on what we want to be known for. And the main initiatives that have come out is that metropolitan focus, and that means we partner with the community. We engage with our community and serve them, and in doing that, serve far and beyond.
You and your staff and faculty have been very busy. I know, though, one of the things that when you came to the job and just after you got your feet a little bit wet, you said that one of your priorities would be student retention.
Right. And the first initiative that came out in the strategic planning process that has involved the entire campus, and we've brought in community input, is we want to be student focused. We want to help students succeed. We've done a pretty good job of recruiting students, but we have not retained them through to graduation. And so an overall priority, and I'm so pleased that came out as a top university initiative, along with partnering with the community, was to be student focused and make sure that those students who are degree bound graduated. And we're making improvements in terms of our retention rates. From fall 97 freshmen to fall 98 freshmen, we retain 66% of our students. And that is a significant increase because we lose most of our freshmen. And while we have not now got the graduation rates up, because that takes a few years out, if we are retaining more of our freshmen, we get them through the first year, we have a much better chance of getting them graduated, since the highest fallout rate is in their freshman year. So we're making progress through Adopt a Freshman program, through all kinds of mentoring, and that is a priority that's paying off.
You say 66%. I don't know, just for point of comparison, college is difficult. It is supposed to be difficult in a sense. Academically, it's supposed to be challenging, and there are those that are either not ready or not up to the task. How does 66% compare, and who are you comparing yourself to as a goal?
Well, this comparison was fall a year ago with this fall, and we are about 10 percentage points up from where we were from the prior fall, 96 to 97.
But where would be a good figure for a freshman to sophomore?
I think that is a good figure. Where I want us to get is the more significant graduation rate. And for a metropolitan university, and remember we serve different audiences than your traditional residential land grants, we would be doing very well to graduate a third of our students who enter. Right now we're graduating 24%. And so to give you an idea of where we are to where we want to go, the first step is increased retention of freshmen.
Well, if you keep that extra 10%, you're going to be right on target.
Right. And so we've got the 10% up for the freshmen, and that's the most critical year. And if we can get up to 33%, people may say, gee, that doesn't seem very high. But remember, a lot of our students are adult students returning for certain skill sets. They're not all degree bound. But we are not graduating enough of the ones that are degree bound.
One of the things that you have to decide in the near future is what you're going to do with our relationship to the Peter Kiewit Conference Center in downtown Omaha. When that building was built, part of the agreement is that UNO would have part of that as to have a downtown presence, because at that time, I think downtown Omaha was looking for more just support from many corridors. Have you decided what you're going to do with that yet?
Well, we are undergoing an intensive study looking at all of our outreach efforts. And a year ago, I started a task force on outreach, because let me say, as the Metropolitan University serving the business and the community and the downtown as well as the entire metro area, we're going to continue to be in the business of continuing education. We are going to have a presence downtown in the Peter Kiewit Center. But what we're finding, the needs are changing, which is why I had this blue ribbon task force of a variety of people to look at where people want continuing education. And downtown is not the sole focus of that. In fact, we have had a decline in our both credit and non-credit courses offered at the center. We have had a decline in conferencing offered at the center. What do people want? They want to be able to take courses on their locations. Business want us to come into their workplace and offer on their time, on their schedule, the kind of curricular that are needed. And of course, as we expand west. So the Peter Kiewit Conference Center will continue to have the Labor Institute downtown, the Center for Public Affairs Research, the NBDC, the Nebraska Business Development Center, and we will look at what other kinds of courses need to stay there versus what need to be taken elsewhere.
Because there is a cost to operating down there.
Oh, yes, there is. There's a significant cost. We pay rent to the state, and of course, with all the other expenses, that's going up. And you know, when this center was developed, and I have learned a lot about it from John Gottschall and Andy Anderson and the $5 million that came from the private, with Peter Kiewit himself
Absolutely.
putting up $2.5 million for a $2.5 million match, so a $5 million private match against the $9 million state, that we've got to really look at how that was designed to serve individuals. And when we look at where that's going, I think we'll say that the downtown had a very different need when that was developed. The campus had a very different need. We didn't have enough classrooms on campus, so it allowed more classrooms, and in essence, we had many of our on-campus students having to go downtown to take classes when they would have preferred to stay on campus. So as we have more classrooms here, as the downtown has different needs and growing needs, we're going to try and meet those.
One of the liaisons that UNO has had for some time is with the military in a couple of ways. One was the Bootstrap program, and this was one of the premier Bootstrap programs in the country, and also the liaison with Offutt Air Force Base and offering courses at Offutt for our military that don't have sometimes the liberty to move around the community as much, depending on what their job status is. Where do those kinds of things stand as part of this metropolitan university?
Well, and again, in terms of outreach, continuing education, Offutt operations will continue. Now, the military is relooking at their operations too, and as they're downsizing, we want to continue to have as major a piece of that operation as possible, because we think we have a real service to offer at Offutt, and we are certainly going to continue and expand to meet the military needs there. And again, as we're looking at what Offutt needs, there are also some entities further west that have different needs as the community moves west.
And Offutt then, in a sense, would be just like the other businesses that need specialized
That's
training in a certain place close to their workforce. So in a sense, they wouldn't be that different.
No, and that's where we're having more and more demand. And Offutt has long been there and will continue. And we just want to be a major player at Offutt.
One of the things you did just in the past year is to work out arrangements with Metro Community College to, and I won't have the right word for this, but to allow students who want to start in a community college in certain, well, in the information technology and computer, to get credit courses there that can then dovetail and bring them in here. How is that working out, and is that necessarily good academically?
Oh, I want to say I think it is very good academically. Some students do better starting at a community college. And if they started here, that's part of that freshman dropout rate. They might not make it, but some students who are more comfortable going to a university later will start out well at a community college. And that word you were saying of the agreements between the two, it's called articulation agreements, which means an easy transfer. And we have developed
much like matriculation.
Right. And we have developed very program by program specific transfer agreements with Metropolitan Community College for Information Science and Technology, for business. We've long had it for fine arts, for our community affairs, public service. We also are working with Iowa Western because many of their students prefer to start there and then transfer.
And certainly for a non-resident student, that would make more sense because of tuition costs.
Yeah.
Be really sure that they know where they're headed, because you can flounder a bit.
But the main thing that you hit right Carol, is we've got to make sure we have the advising at the community college, because you don't want students to go a couple of years and not be able to transfer credits. And that's why we're working so closely with them. Now, you can go 2 years at Metropolitan or at Iowa Western and not take classes that transfer if you're interested in the vocational tracks. But if you have a sound academic freshman, sophomore year there, by the time they get to us as a junior, they will likely graduate.
Or you may want to take other core subjects that help get you to a college level so you are comfortable academic.
That's right.
Maybe not in your major, but in the other things that we need to learn to be pretty well-rounded.
Again, we want to cooperate and partner with the community colleges like we do with business and avoid more expensive program and duplication.
I don't want to dwell on, and this negative doesn't even really apply here, but as you meet with other college presidents, chancellors, depending on what title they hold in their institution, what is the greatest fear for higher education in these days?
It is the public funding reductions. I think all over the country you are having less and less percentage of state appropriation dollars coming to public universities, and they're two primary sources of income, and you balance your tuition or your income fund against your state appropriations in terms of delivering your basic education. Now, we all are relying more on private gifts, but in terms of your instruction, your teaching, your research, you've got to have that balance. And as we have increased proportion of state dollars, then the way that is picked up is through tuition, and certainly states like Nebraska very rightly want to keep public education as low cost as possible.
Because if the tuition goes up, we may find students that really should be college bound not being able to afford it.
I will say though, in terms of need-based, there really is a lot of financial aid, both federally and state, to help students get to the university, and Nebraska is so well priced for its public institutions. All of the institutions in the University of Nebraska, multi-campus enterprise, are at the low end of their counterparts in terms of tuition.
If you could wave the Nancy Belk magic wand and have something that you don't have or don't have in the works, what would it be? Now, I mean, we won't be held to this, just totally wishful thinking.
Well, I don't know that it's wishful thinking, because it is becoming a reality. We need additional scholarships to attract our very best students. And here's where we have had a lot of wonderful support, because when you give students an opportunity to go to the university, the entire state, nation is benefited by higher education of its populace. And so I think the more students we can help get in the university and get graduated will benefit us, and that would be my magic wand to get those who are college bound, have the ability to make sure they have the opportunity.
Well, as we both finish up our second year here.
That's
Me
right.
back for the second time.
I guess I'm the last one this year. And
The last
the
one
first
will start up again in the fall. I want to thank you very much, and I want to thank the people that work for you, that make our comfortable home here at the Milo Bale Student Center a terrific home. And thank you for joining us on Consider This.
Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Allegiant Health and Bass & Associates.